All right, everybody. Prehistoric art. Now, again, as Mr. Art has stated, this is my Eagle Scout project. I use it as a means to, say, culturally enrich the local community. For the sake of teaching you guys where art came from, how it developed, and how it influenced history over time. We begin with the earliest, prehistoric art. Of course, presented by me. I had my friend Will make the presentation itself, although I gave a little bit of oversight on that. It's edited by my friend Tim, as you've all met. And the research was done by my friend Cole, and me helping him considering the large amount of presentations that had to be made. Icon. What is it? Speaking bluntly, because nobody wants to actually hear me rattle all this off, let's give a sort of Cliff Notes version to get you guys a little interested. Prehistoric art, largely categorized as the earliest form of art, is a art style developed by early man and what could be considered man as far back as 100,000 years. Utilizes a very basic skill set and a very basic set of techniques in order to illustrate artistic merit, if you would, using simple outlines and animal designs. Very basic animal depictions if you've seen any of these cave paintings. Despite the vast distances prehistoric art encompasses, a large part of it is, interestingly enough, a very uniform style. Although that might be because of the very simple nature of the designs themselves. You know, buff stick figures, if you would, which that was me. Although the most famous aspect of cave paintings themselves is the cave paintings. You know, there are other forms of prehistoric art like finger carvings, small statuettes, shell carvings, etc. But everyone and their grandma knows about the cave paintings. Iconic, if you would. And it is important to know that we don't exactly know a lot about the cave paintings. Surprisingly enough, there's not a lot of people who still do these that are still around. You know, 100,000 years really does that to you. But it is important to note they have very deep ties to culture and heritage, making them incredibly important in their own right, despite the very simple nature of their design. When was it used? Now, when you say when, it's very iffy on a lot of things, considering, again, nobody was alive to date these. So we have to do a lot of carbon dating and guessing in a lot of ways. Of course, prehistoric art could be, if you want to get technical, could date as far back as 500,000 years, although that's even arguable if humans did it, considering Homo erectus and everything and shell carvings. Very debatable on whether or not we can consider that art or simple tool use. The most definitive version of art, cave paintings if you would, that we can trace back is about 40,000 years or so. Although the style itself would largely fade over time due to the establishment of distinct cultures, you know, Egyptians, Greeks, etc., due to the advent of agriculture. Largely getting rid of this uniform-esque style. Where was it used? Well, because of this style's deep connections to culture, heritage, and its very simple design, it was, surprisingly enough, used in a lot of different places. Although it's virtually all over the world, even in South America, places that don't rarely interact with each other. It is important to note the most publicized of early cave paintings, if you would, or prehistoric art at that, is largely in Europe and India and the surrounding Asian areas. Very iffy on a lot of places, though. Example here, we have Lakanaya Dara, India. Cave paintings, pretty cool. And then we have Kolumbaru, Australia. As you can see, despite the vast distances from the area, they maintain a largely uniform style and aesthetic, if you would. Trivia. Who wants candy? Alright guys, answer me this. Where have the most cave paintings been discovered? The Cave of Time in Mexico, the Lost Cow Caves of France, the Victoria Caves of Africa, or the Wedren Caves of Atlantis?
You go out on a limb and say it's not D.
Well.
Can I go on a limb and say A?
Nope.
Can I go on a limb and say C?
Oh my gosh, it's
Just try to get the piece of candy. Let's go. Lost Cow Caves. It's in France. It has the most cave paintings to date. Or most in one area, if you will. Famous practitioners. Obviously, because all of them are dead and nobody was alive to record it, we don't know a lot of famous practitioners of cave art. Although, what we do know, we have to largely guess at. We could assume that practitioners of early cave paintings and prehistoric art, if you would, lived a largely similar life to that of early humans. You know, hunter-gatherer lifestyle, lived in caves and large groups of humans at the time. Although it is also important to note, we could theorize that a lot of these early cave painting doers were in a more elder shamanistic role within their group of humans, considering most theorize that the cave paintings were used to serve as means of telling stories or recording major events, for future generations to learn, considering the advent of language hadn't exactly taken off yet. Yeah. Historical significance. I cannot undermine the historical significance of prehistoric art itself, considering the fact, it's obviously the earliest form of art, and it serves as the most basic outline of what art could be at the time. Very simple designs, very simple aesthetic, but it serves to show, the human capacity to understand art and to strive to create art, whether or not that's for aesthetic purposes, presentation, or simply telling stories. Very important, and it's a natural desire to make art. It's also important to note, very big point of this, it helps us understand early humans. Obviously there's not exactly a lot of writings of early humans that early humans have made, so these serve as our best, closest relative to it, considering they depict very early human actions that we can assume from what they ate, what animals they interacted with at the time, and what we could understand existed at the same time. Obviously, a lot of extinct animals at the time in cave paintings. Dead, but hey, they're in a cave painting. Examples. Here's where we get to the fun part. Lascaux Caves, big horse. Not exactly creative with the names on this one, but... And if I'm not mistaken, that is another horse, very popular, simple designs. The Lion Man, found in Germany, considered one of the earliest forms of human-animal hybrid art, if you would. Very early furry. And that, surprisingly enough, is a fertility idol. Although the ravages of time have not been kind to this one. What can I say? I guess chicken nuggets were attractive back then. And here we have resources. You guys can check these out if you want to learn any more. And that's it. Any questions? You get candy if you ask questions.
Chandler, do you know what material they used to make the cave paintings?
A large part of the cave paintings, because of the fact they didn't have access to any real paints at the time, was a large mixture of natural ingredients, berry juices, possibly eggs, early form of tempera art, and, various plants and wildlife they could gather up. Possibly even animal fluids. Any more questions? You get candy if you ask a question related to this.
Anybody?
Anybody?
Did the sculpture of the fertility goddess come up before the other sculpture that you showed us? Like the other carving that you showed us?
The one I showed you, the very worn down one, it would be fair to assume that it's a lot older than the other ones I've showed you, considering the fact, wear and tear over time, but the simple design aesthetic of it maintains. Anything else? All right.